This morning on Meet the Press, Governor Tim Walz demanded that Donald Trump's MRI results be released to the public, claiming that Trump is obviously physically fading and that we have a right to know what's going on.
Well, here we got a guy on Thanksgiving where we spent time with our families. We ate, we played Yahtzee, we cheered for football or whatever. This guy is apparently in a room ranting about everything else. This is not normal behavior. It is not healthy. And presidents throughout time have released a couple things. They've released their tax returns, not Donald Trump, and they've released their medical records, not Donald Trump. And look, the MRI is one thing, but I think what's most concerning about this is, as your viewers out there are listening, has anyone in the history of the world ever have an MRI assigned to them and have no idea what it was for, as he says? So look, it's clear the president's fading physically. I think the mental capacity, again, ranting, crazily at midnight on Thanksgiving about everything else. There's reasons for us to be concerned. This is a guy that randomly says the airspace over Venezuela is closed. He's ruminating on if you could win a nuclear war. Look, this is a serious position. It's the most powerful position in the world. And we have someone at midnight throwing around slurs that demonize our children. And at the same time, he's not solving any of the problems. So I'm deeply concerned that he is incapable of doing the job.
What the governor was referencing there was Donald Trump's absolutely unhinged Thanksgiving Truth Social post. It's his usual nonsensical, grievance-filled diatribe, putting his incredibly brittle, narcissistic ego on full display. But in this post, he called Governor Walz the R word. This is what the president of the United States, who should be the most dignified member of our government, the representative of this country, this is what the president of the United States is doing on Thanksgiving, posting hate-filled screed against his political enemies, using slurs and just spouting absolute nonsense. Myself and plenty of other folks have been saying for months and months and months that there is a glaring contrast, a glaring inconsistency between how corporate legacy media chose to cover Joe Biden and any perception that he might be aging, might have some cognitive issues, might be struggling physically, and how they are choosing to willfully ignore a vast quantity of evidence about Donald Trump's obvious decline. Now, this photo from this morning, Sunday, November 30th, was leaked. This is Donald Trump at his golf resort, looking just absolutely terrible. The claim was that he was nodding off in that photo, and that would not be the first time that Donald Trump has been caught napping in the middle of the day. Let me just put a really quick montage together of just a few instances between April and now.
I asked that with trepidation, only because you read a lot of the material now out of Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman is saying we need a resolution on a Palestinian state.
A fraud war room using this kind of technology, because we'll know who you are and who your doctor is. We can block this. We're going to have remarkable advances in how consumers can use their own records. We'll have beneficiaries be able to get MAHA advice and prevention.
Linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization that will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future.
He's literally falling asleep standing up.
I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance.
They used about 20 acres and had a fence that had been there since 19.
This is during a MAHA briefing. These are all standard press briefings and news conferences in the middle of the day. And time again, the president of the United States cannot stay awake. But even more than that, we've seen how over the last several weeks, Donald Trump is no longer standing in press conferences. He's seated. Zoran Mamdani, like a fragile narcissist, is remaining seated while Zoran Mamdani is standing over him. It's because Donald Trump cannot stand for any prolonged length of time. He's had multiple physicals this year. His diatribes, his speeches have been far more rambly. He has significant gait issues. If you don't watch the Daily Beast's YouTube channel, you might want to. They've had a whole long series talking about Trump's very obvious cognitive decline and the very real concerns that clinicians have that he has dementia and is not fit to be running the United States of America. I mean, there's so many reasons that he's not fit to be president and running the United States of America, but let's just focus on this one issue, his cognitive decline and concerns about his health. And let's not forget, there was a piece out this past week in the New York Times. It was entitled "Shorter Days, Signs of Fatigue, Trump Faces Realities of Aging in Office." Trump became so emotionally dysregulated over this New York Times piece because, one, fragile narcissists cannot handle any criticism of them whatsoever. They need to be universally adored. And any perceived narcissistic injury is going to result in them lashing out in really cruel ways. But also because he doesn't want people to know. One, he doesn't want to face the fact that he has cognitive decline. He doesn't want to face the fact that he is a 79-year-old man and he doesn't have that much time left. That mortality is catching up with him, that his body is wearing out, that he is experiencing the dwindles. And because of that, he was so angry over this New York Times piece that he called Katie Rogers, the White House correspondent for the New York Times, a third-rate reporter who is ugly both inside and out and has been assigned to write only bad things about me. Trump has claimed he doesn't know why he was given MRIs multiple times this year. He also tried to claim that cognitive tests that were administered to him were IQ tests, and they proved that he's much smarter than AOC. Like, that's not what the MOCA test assesses. It's not an IQ test. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't want people talking about his health. He doesn't want people to perceive him as frail and weak and aged. Right, all things that he clearly is. And at the same time, the folks who are behind the scenes running him, Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, Project 2025, Russell Vogt, et cetera, they don't want you talking about Donald Trump's cognitive decline. They don't want the press talking about it. They don't want Republican politicians talking about it. They are perfectly content to give Donald Trump the White House ballroom project, right? I said in the past that that's like when you have a dementia patient, and in order to keep them from becoming agitated, you often give them like a baby doll to hold and take care of, or you give them a basket of washcloths to fold. It's a distraction. It's something meant to pacify them and keep them from becoming agitated. I think that's what this White House ballroom project is for Donald Trump, because he's always been enamored with ballrooms. This is something that absolutely he can put all of his energy into, while Stephen Miller and everybody else are, doing all of the nasty, insidious things behind the scenes, which is why Trump often seems so checked out. He doesn't know which crypto, Bitcoin, billionaire felon was pardoned, because he didn't have any say in that. He didn't do anything except, have somebody auto pen it. Because not only has he never had any interest in governing at all, but at this point in time, he's no longer capable of calling the shots and running the show. But they still need him as a figurehead, right? Because it is Donald Trump who holds the cult of MAGA together. It is a cult of personality. It is not a cult of an idea. Stephen Miller cannot hold that cult together. Russell Vogt cannot hold that cult together. And God knows J.D. Couchfucker Vance cannot hold that cult together. So I think Tim Walz is right to push on this issue, because we have a right to know. The American people have a right to know. A man with the nuclear codes, a man who is running the wealthiest country on earth, a man who is wanting to wage war against other countries, a man who wants to start wars of aggression against other countries, is clearly in very poor health, clearly has serious cognitive concerns, clearly has the dwindles. It is absolutely not something that we should be ignoring. The press should be ignoring. Politicians should be ignoring. We need to address it. I hope more folks will join Governor Walz in demanding that Donald Trump's MRI results be released. I hope more folks will start speaking up and say, what the hell? Like, we can all see what's going on. We need to address this for the good and the safety of this nation, for our global safety, for the well-being of the American people. We have to address this issue. Because this frail, addled old man, who, by the way, has spent $70 million of our taxpayer dollars so far this year golfing, this is the man who is in charge of the United States of America, or is being used by other folks behind the scene who are actually running the United States through him. It is entirely appropriate and reasonable and necessary for Donald Trump's MRI results to be released, for his diagnoses to be released, for the American people to know what's going on. I'm glad Governor Walz was willing to say it. More folks need to join him immediately.